Hi everybody, James Robert Elliott here. I'm with Chucky Okobi, and he is the founder of Basic Constructions Mind Mastery. And he's a man that thinks a lot like myself, and I wanted to have him on the show, give a lot of value here to you. And he's done some amazing things. He's had a TED Talk. He's been in the NFL and a pro football player. I wanted him to talk about some of the foundational elements, some of the major things that were responsible for his success, not just getting to the NFL, being a win in the NFL, but also now taking that into business and how he helps people in business. So welcome, Chucky.
Hey, appreciate you guys having me in here, and it's always a pleasure to share my experience of how NLP specifically was the difference that made the difference in
Right
terms
on,
of
brother.
finding my success professionally. So,
Very cool. Very cool. So talk to us then, because as you know, I'm a big NLP guy. A lot of people know that I'm a big NLP guy too. But talk to us more. How specifically and how directly was NLP responsible, and what fuel did it give you to really become an unstoppable athlete?
well, the first thing that NLP opened my mind to is that I'm in control of literally everything in my world. And once I began to accept responsibility for whatever circumstance I found myself in, I realized that even if that circumstance was not what I wanted it to be,
Right.
it still put me in a position where I'm in control. So if I don't like the circumstance I find myself in, I created this circumstance, consciously or unconsciously, I created it, which means that I controlled it and I got a result I wasn't looking for. But because I controlled it, I'm still in control. I can control it again to change it to what I do want, preserving the learnings from those, you know, professional losses, if you will. And instead of looking at them as a problem,
Mm.
look at it as this is what I had to learn in order to get to where I want to go. And so once the biggest thing I find, especially coaching, professional C-level executive startup founders, is a lot of times people come in looking for this type of guidance, this
Mm.
type of mentorship or coaching because there's something wrong. At least that's their story.
Mm.
I can't say that they're right or that is true or not because I've never experienced the world from their perspective. All I know is this: most of the time when people look to personal development, it's because there's some aspect of life that feels off to them. Could be in their career, could be in their health and fitness, could be in their relationships, but there's something that's going on and they can't figure out why it keeps happening. So, like for example, I remember when I first started and was working with a lot of different types of clients, not just entrepreneurs. I was working with a woman here in Kansas City, and she was, mid 40s, getting older, and she wanted to have a family. So she felt like she was running out of time. I could completely appreciate where she's coming from. What really struck me was the language she used when she was talking to me about her problem. And she would say things like, "I'm just tired of being alone. I don't want to be single. I feel like my life is lacking." See, there's the thing. If you understand the conscious mind, unconscious mind dynamic, what did the unconscious mind hear? Alone, single, and lack.
Yep. Yep.
And so it's like when you look around, there's learnings all over the place. And we all have colorful life, different aspects to our
Yep. Right
experiences,
on. We sure have.
different places where we gain learnings from. And, I remember I was speaking in Manhattan at a venture capitalist firm, and they were surprised when I put up a slide of the rapper 50 Cent. It's a bunch of, men 60, 70 years old.
Yeah.
What is this about? And I said, listen, it's a saying that my mentor told me, and his mentor told him, his uncle, and it's a saying. It's actually native Hawaiian saying, and the saying is "Aohe pau ko ike ko halau," which translates to realize that not all learnings come from school.
That's for sure.
So I used 50 Cent to make this point, and what he said in the song from back in 2003, there was a line in that song that when I hear it, the first thing I think is NLP. And what he said was, in the Bible I read, death is of the tongue. If you talk about death enough, death is going to come. If you focus on your mind on what you don't want, Just like the client who was tired of being alone, felt like she was lacking, didn't want to be single, the unconscious mind doesn't understand negatives. And so if I focus on death, what I don't want, that's exactly what you're going to get. And you controlled it. You brought it to you.
Yep.
Because of the way that you made sense of things, your interpretations. And you say, yeah, but anytime you say, yeah, but, what you're saying is, I'm rejecting this learning. That's literally what the unconscious mind is getting, is that, yeah, but I always thought, you always thought. And the way you thought led you to seek my help. So maybe the way you were thinking was the problem. Maybe you need to change the way you look at things, because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at start to change.
Right on, brother. It's neuroscience. People that if they refute it nowadays, it's proven by neuroscience. Your RAS, reticular activating system, you program that with your words, your thoughts, and it was programmed by parents, culture, religion, society, all the stuff. You have to do this. You can't do this. You must do this. A good girl, a bad boy does this and that, or doesn't do this and that. But you're right. It's programmed with our thoughts and our visualizations and the crap we say to ourselves.
Yeah, just to add to that, is your parents didn't program you. You did. The environment didn't program you. You did. And the thing is, that puts you in a position to change it. I don't have to do what my parents said I should do, because I'm not a kid. And I'm an independent human being who has his own independent human thinking. And that's the thing, is most people are lazy. You know that? Here's one thing. There's a lot of different statistics out there that people don't know that they don't know. And there's a book I definitely recommend it to anybody called Wanting, Wanting, Wanting by Luke Burgess. And he talks about how most people don't realize that the majority of human beings on this earth do not have an original opinion of their own. Think about this. How many people do you know that can't even go see a movie unless they hear somebody else and what they thought of it? Sure. They can't even go into the movie, watch it, and then make an opinion. They always got to ask. How many, women will understand is, when you're trying on clothes and you got to send text pictures to other people. What about what you think when you look in the mirror? And this is where that's a dynamic. If I consistently rely on the environment to tell me what to do, that becomes a habit.
True.
And so once that becomes a habit, you start to feel like you're not in control. There's something wrong with me because I asked somebody else their opinion and they said no. They said they didn't like it. So that must mean something about me. No, it's all your interpretation of the environment. And so it's like when somebody yells at me, like if I'm a kid and somebody yells at me, that's gonna, especially if it's something new, then it's gonna trigger an emotion, maybe fear, maybe anger, maybe, guilt. Mm-hmm. And then through the filter of that emotion, I tell myself a story about what being yelled at means. And that interpretation becomes a belief. And then that becomes the lens through which you engage your environment. And so anytime somebody raises your voice, you take that as evidence that there's something wrong with me. You don't know what you don't know. And so a lot of times we misinterpret things. That's part of the learning process. But one of the beliefs that I hope, entrepreneurs to develop is I listen to advice. I don't take orders.
Okay.
And that's the big thing is recognizing that you are in control. And so like when I look at myself and all the success, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where I was born. Grew up in a house where parents were always fighting. And when you're a little kid, you feel insignificant in those situations. But there was one place I felt significant, and that's when I was playing sports. So that was my escape from a difficult home life. And so what motivated me to pursue a career in sports was how I felt about me. I felt, in a house where, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of sadness, I didn't like that. Those are negative emotions. They don't feel good. But when I was playing sports, all of a sudden, I wasn't just a valued member of the group, but I was a leader. I was somebody important. And so, I played catcher playing baseball growing up. And so I was running the defense. All of a sudden, I'm important. And so that was what I wanted. I could give a damn if it was on television. I just wanted to love myself. And that's what my motivation was. And so that's leading me into the next point, and that is emotions are just energy in motion. Think about it, emotions. And so understanding that focusing on what I wanted to feel loved as opposed to what I didn't want and focusing on the negative emotions is what naturally led my unconscious mind to focus on that, and my unconscious actions is what led to the success. And so that's the big thing is how many times you ask somebody. I think about, clients that have come to me, CEOs, business owners, and I'll say, okay, generally speaking, we get on the call. The first question, and I'm just paraphrasing here, is what is it that you want? And I can't count on both hands and feet how many times I've heard this. Almost verbatim. What they'll say is, I know what I don't want.
Yeah.
I have no clue what I do want. That's the problem. Is because check it out. If what I don't want is over here, and what I do want is over here, a lot of times people say, I got to keep my eye on this to make sure I don't have it.
Yeah.
Here's the irony. If my eye is on this, two things. One, that's all I have. Two, I can't even pick up any of the 126 bits that are going to lead me to what I want.
Yeah.
And so the problem isn't the story you're telling. The problem is you're not giving up that story. That's the problem. And so it's all about using my position to give people what I call a press box view. Because if I'm playing football, I played offensive line. If I'm down on the line of scrimmage, I can't see the whole crowd. I can't see the quarterback behind me. There's a lot of things I can't see in this moment. All I can deal with is what is looking at on the line of scrimmage. So my perception of this moment is just this. But I can't see everything in the stadium. There's only one place I can see everything, and that's in the press box. That's why there's a coach up there. Somebody who can give you the broader picture, can point out your blind spots. Like if you ever watch football and seen somebody on the phone on the sideline, he's talking to the coach to get a perspective of what's actually happening, because down there it can feel chaotic. And so having somebody in your press box to say, hey, here's something you didn't know that you didn't know of why that happened. And that's a big part of what I do. And that's where NLP made a huge difference for me. When I was in college and, only had one scholarship offer, the coach that gave me the scholarship left. And so that's why I freaked out when something was wrong, at least from my perspective. And the emotions were so intense. I was having panic attacks in the bathroom stall of my dorm for 2 weeks straight because I was worried about it. But it wasn't until I took control and said, this feeling is unacceptable. I don't know what I'm going to do to fix it, but I'll find it. And so I went to a used bookstore on campus. My strategy was to look in the trash. I'm going to find a piece of information that other people don't know, and I'll use it to my advantage. What it is, I don't know. But then I went to the bookstore, and it felt as if the book was jumping off the shelf at me. And the title of this book is The Secret to Creating Your Future by Dr. Tad James. And so I sat down. I was like, that's exactly what I want to know, this secret. And so I sat down, started reading. He had my head spinning because I didn't understand the word he was talking about. And so I said, maybe this isn't the book. Put it down. I started to get up off the floor, and it was like it was just glowing at me. The secret to creating your future. I said, I got to know the secret. And so I sat down. I said, I don't quite understand just yet, but I'll keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into this book until it starts to make sense. And eventually it did. Cool. So the point I got from this, and it goes back to everything I've been saying, is that I'm in control. What I interpreted from what he was saying is, he's saying my entire world is not out there. It's in my mind.
Right on.
And then with this neuro-linguistic NLP,
word and a half.
NLP, he's saying that you can control what goes on in your mind. So my logic, I was 18 years old, was with NLP, I can control my world, and I bought the book. And that's how it started. And needless to say, this was 18 years old, going into my first year playing college football. And we had a new coach come in, and I was the only freshman starter on that team. And that's a freshman class that included somebody you might have heard of, Drew Brees. And so NLP helped me to rise above my teammates that I was competing against, which then, continuing to formulate the way I interpreted my world and taking control of my results, I was able to become an all-conference all Big Ten player. I was drafted, won a Big Ten championship. I mean, having Breeze as your quarterback helps, but a lot of the success came from the fact that I took control. I had a moment of choice where, because the coach that gave me the scholarship left, I could have just folded up shop and left.
Yep.
But instead, I decided, no, there's got to be something I could do. There's just something I don't know that if I did know would change the circumstance. Just like there was something that Dorothy didn't know that if she did know, it would have been a shorter movie.
Yeah, fair enough.
She didn't have the basic instructions of how that power she has worked. So essentially what I help business leaders do is click 3 times and get your result. It's not as difficult as the story you're making it out to be.
Well, that's the thing too. And I hear from a lot of people, I can't because blank. I'm not able to because blank. I have to wait. I'm too young. I'm too old. I'm too this or none of that. And it's interesting because, like you said, take control, take responsibility. And it truly is a lot easier than it sounds and than most people think. But there's that story. I can't. I have to. I should. I shouldn't. Here's 20 reasons why I can't. Okay. Well, can we even find one reason together why you can? And I think if you want something in life, either take control and take responsibility, even if you're not doing it all. You and I were talking about, outsourcing and delegating and not doing the things you don't want to do and doing only things you love during your day and finding other people to trade with or outsource. I think it's an important thing, but it's just, it doesn't mean you have to do it all. Take control. If you're a leader or a business leader or whoever, entrepreneur, take responsibility for the results you want, and yes, have people to delegate it to. So you're not doing things you don't want, like, I don't know, bookkeeping or whatever. Mm-hmm. You can do what you love all day long. So I think you're right. It's all about taking control and being in charge. And like you said, NLP helps you understand your mind and how it works and understand other people's minds and how it works. So you perform better, you can enroll people better, influence people better, sell better, whatever you need to do.
I mean, that's what it comes down to is, like Jim Rohn used to say, words are like lights for your feet, so you can see where you're going.
Yeah, power.
The thing is, we as adults, one of the biggest issues we have as adults, and this is, whether you know NLP or not, is we interpreted when we were children that adults knew everything. And so that becomes a belief when you're not, before you become an adult. So then when you get older, you start to believe that I know everything. Unconscious, it's not even a conscious thing. You believe you know. And so when somebody presents you with a different perspective or an opposing view, then those 2 words pop into your mind that to me sound like Freddy Krueger's nails on a chalkboard.
Fair enough.
And those 2 words are, yeah, but.
Yeah, or yeah, I know.
The minute most people don't understand, the minute you say yeah, but, you just commanded, you're in control. And as soon as you say that, everything you say consciously is a command to your unconscious mind. So the minute you say yeah, but, you just commanded the unconscious mind, hey, do not consider any new information. That's going to mess up my reality. That's literally what you're saying to yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
And so when you open yourself up, it's what I call acceptance and surrender. If you can't accept that you are in control and surrender that story, nothing's ever going to change. Nothing.
No matter how hard you work, how much money you spend, how many mentors you. Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to change. And so it's about acceptance that I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, which then puts me into an emotional state of curiosity. So when I run into an obstacle, you're having trouble, I attempted to do something nice for my wife. It didn't work out. There's no such thing as failure. It's just feedback.
Right. That's right.
And so the thing is, what do I not know that led to this result? What could I have done different to get the result I want? But instead, people look at that. They look at that situation of not getting their desired result and they label it failure. The thing about the failure is this is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Words have energy and words trigger emotions. So the minute you say failure, what your unconscious mind does, it makes an association with that label. What does that mean to me? And so if I call myself a failure, there's presuppositions. Number one, there's a finality to it. Like that's the end. If I
Yeah,
failed,
instead of fail period. Yeah, yeah. When there's never failure.
if I failed 12th grade, well, I'll just go back to school tomorrow. No, the semester's over. So if you failed, there's a finality to it, and that's how you're communicating with yourself, is that I am a failure, and that's a permanent fixed label that you put on yourself. But here's the thing: if I just accept that I don't know what I don't know, whatever strategy led to this result, I got to surrender and open my mind up to explore other possibilities.
Right
The
on.
minute you say, yeah, but you've shut off any other possibility except for what you believe is right. But you don't know what you don't know, and what you don't know that you don't know is what's running the show. And since you don't know what you don't know, ask yourself this question: how do I know what I think I know is right? Don't answer me, just consider it. I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
Accept that I don't know what I don't know, and whatever strategies, stories, plans that I used to use or used in the past that got me the result I didn't want, surrender. Open up like a little kid. Like, we all have memories. Maybe you can even remember your very earliest memory of when you learned what it was like to learn. Maybe you were in a class with other people or with somebody older and more experienced, but in this moment you learned what it was like to learn, and everything sounded true and it feels real. And so you got to go back to that mind, man. That mind when you were back in third grade and you first saw those cursive letters on the board. You didn't look at them and say, I can't do that. You looked and said, how do I do that?
Yeah, right.
What are the basic instructions? And if we start to engage our world this way, that's where I say success is simple if you know the basic instructions. If you don't know the basic instructions, well, then that's where the curiosity, you can either decide that I'm not smart enough like the Scarecrow, I'm not tough enough like the Tin Man, or you could say, what do I need to learn to get my result?
Yep.
And that's why I went to that bookstore, and you see what happened.
Yep. Yeah, it's that shifting that mindset to how can I versus I can't because. I mean, I tell people, question everything, question your thoughts, question the stuff you've been told, science, religion, whatever you've been taught, beliefs. Question. You don't have to oppose it all, but question it all. And to your point, how do I know this is true? How do I know this is accurate? Because it's your point. If you think you're a failure, well, question that. Because I'm sure yourself, Chucky. I mean, look at Michael Jordan too. But even yourself, I'm sure there was tons of failures or growth opportunities when you were playing ball, when you're a professional athlete. Tons of them.
Yeah, it all goes back to the very first theme of NLP: perception is interpretation. Is when those things happen that I didn't plan on. How did I interpret it?
Yeah.
And that is where all your control is what story am I telling myself about myself? And whatever story you tell, words are like magic. That's why they call it spelling. Whatever words I use in here, those words are going to trigger emotions. Those emotions are going to be the filter through which I engage my world. And if I tell a story that produces a negative emotional response, then that's how I feel in life in this moment. And all of a sudden, right now, the story turns to life sucks. And the thing is, most people don't understand where beliefs come from. Beliefs are simply a story you've been told over and over, whether it's by your parents, your preacher, or yourself. So if I continue to tell myself, I can't, then I program my mind to not be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll say, well, what if you learn something new and they gave you the power to do it? Yeah, but so what you're saying is you believe your own story.
Yeah, exactly.
What if it's not true? Because it's just like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. It's the same thing. Dorothy believes she couldn't get herself home.
Yeah.
I can't. Who's gonna save me? I'm the victim here. And how many people on this planet, that's the soundtrack to their life.
Yes.
And so they wonder why life sucks. If you say so, that's your interpretation, and I can't argue it. But I can tell you what, if you don't like the way life feels, maybe if we interpreted our circumstance differently, we would feel differently. And what if I felt differently, and then I'm triggering positive emotions? Emotions are just energy in motion, emotions. So when you think about doing your job as a business leader, you think about the aspects that you love. When you think about the aspects that you love, that's your vibration now, is love. And so think about that emotion as raw material. Like if I'm a sculptor and I got different materials to create the sculpture with. I got marble, I got clay, and I got shit. Okay. And so let's say marble, that's the positive emotions, happiness, gratitude, love. You know, the marble. So like you took the clay is like kind of in the middle. And then the shit is just a crappy material. So that didn't stick together. I can't, but whatever emotion you choose is going to fall into one of those categories. So if I'm working and I'm thinking about love, I'm feeling love, then that's the energy in my gas tank. That is the raw material I'm creating my result with. And whatever emotion you're working with, well, anger motivates me. No, it doesn't. It does, but not in the way you think.
No, fair.
Because if you're focused on anger, that's a negative emotion. That's shit. And so if I create something out of anger, then the vibration of my result is going to be the same as that emotion.
Yeah. And it stops working after a while. It may get you there, but then it stops working, and then it actually turns it around and will kill whatever you've created. So
well, yeah. it's gonna burn you out. It's eventually it's like there's a mind-body energy connection, which is what the third theme of NLP. And so the emotions, they start in the, more esoteric realm. If you look at it energetically, which then filters down to your thoughts, which then those thoughts are transmuted into language, which then triggers emotions, and eventually comes down to the physical level.
Yeah.
So like when I learned NLP back in college, I came up with a mantra very quickly. The mind commands, the body obeys. So the condition of my body it should be congruent with my mental and emotional state. And so what I've found in other people, and I've had experiences this in my personal life with other people that I've lost, is if you use negative emotions as a motivator, it can work. I look at it like newspaper to start a barbecue. Like I can start with it.
Temporary, exactly.
It can get me moving, but eventually I need to find something that's going to compel me to move forward. I can't just keep getting away from the anger. It's like the negative emotions. It's like if I'm getting away from a fire. Getting away is movement, so it can get you started. The thing is to keep you going. If anger is my motivation, recognize that I must stay angry at all times. And what happens is that negative emotion filters down to the physical body. And that's where high blood pressure, heart disease, colon cancer, and you think, oh, this happened to me. No, you created it by choosing shit.
Fair. Yeah. Not to mention, you become a jerk, and most people don't want to hang out with you anyways.
Yep.
And you get far enough. If you get far enough away from, like you said, you got to stay angry, because if you get far enough away from that anger, it stops motivating you. Like, okay, what do I have to motivate me now? I think that's what a lot of people as well. They find they're no longer motivated, because what once motivated them, maybe it's an getting away from something. It's no longer motivating because they've gotten far enough away. They need to now turn and look toward, okay, what I want to move towards. What do I want?
Exactly. And so like the way I teach this, is the idea of mules versus thoroughbreds. And, my dad wasn't around really much after I was 7 years old. So that's, again, part of why sports was so appealing to me is I created my father figures, surrogates, if you will. Most of them are coaches. And my most impactful influence was my offensive line coach at Purdue, and Danny Hope. And I used to go to his office an hour before practice every day just to talk about life. And, he told me about his family, his son. I talked to him about what's going on with me in life. Obviously, we talked a lot about football, but he talked a lot about recruiting, because that's what college coaches do. And so I remember a conversation one day, I was probably like 19, and he said, give me the players. I will find a way to win. I'm that good a coach. They don't have to be the most talented. They don't have to be the biggest or fastest. Just give me the players. I will figure it out. But when I'm recruiting, there's only two types of people I can recruit. You got mules, you got thoroughbreds. Yeah. So give me a bunch of mules. I will find a way to get the job done. The thing is, it's going to be extra work for me, because I'm going to have to use the stick to get this mule to move. I'm going to have to beat him with the stick to get him to move. Could use pain as a motivator. Give me a thoroughbred. A lot of people think they're thoroughbreds, but you got to ask yourself, am I really? Because a thoroughbred, I don't need the stick. I don't even need a carrot. All I need to do is give him the basic instructions of how to get what he wants, open the gate, and watch him run. And so that's the thing is, mules and thoroughbreds. Mules are motivated by pain, anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt. That's their motivation. Thoroughbreds are motivated by what they want: love, gratitude, happiness,
success. Yeah. Exactly.
And so, like I told you from the beginning, why was I so attracted to sports? Because I felt love. To me, the pain of home got me out of the house. But the love of playing is what kept me going. And so the thing is, whatever comes to mind and you think, oh, that's BS, that's what you got to get rid of. That's your life. And by continuing to not surrender that story and accept that you are in control, then your story becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's where people mess up a lot, is they think, oh, football is a rough sport and it's intense and it's angry game. No, I learned emotional discipline so I can master the game. Then I don't need to be angry to play it. Instead, you learn how to control your emotions, ramp them up so that you can channel that energy into the game. But you also need to learn how to let it go when the game is done. And so, because if I'm always angry, I'm going to show everybody up, I'm going to show these haters. That is the worst strategy on earth.
Yeah,
because hate, they're haters. Hate is a label. Hate triggers anger inside the person that says the word, which means that if I'm using haters as a motivation, I got to stay angry. And so if I stay angry, eventually it's going to wear you down. Whether it wears you down mentally, emotionally, or physically. High blood pressure, heart disease, colon cancer. Look at, I don't speak on people that I don't know a lot about, but from what I understand, you look at like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, brilliant man, has had a huge impact on society. Died very young, and from the rumors you hear is he was a very angry person. And look at him. Look at the flash pictures of that guy. That's what anger does. Is eventually it's going to manifest on a level.
Not to mention your that way of being, being angry. It tends to, because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. It tends to also, you're angry in your relationships, your friendship. You tend to piss all the people off, and I've seen people like that. Yes, anger gets them to be a lawyer, a doctor, or whatever, business owner. But then because they have to be that fighter and that anger, they tend to piss off everyone around them. And so they have no one. It kills the relationships, or it pisses everyone off because they're always in that anger fight. I'm going to get you. I'm going to show you kind of mode. And it can be very toxic.
Yeah, very absolutely. Toxic. So, I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is just learning that you are in control.
Right on.
And whatever you think you can't do, you sound like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
Maybe all you need are the basic instructions, and the situation doesn't seem like such a crisis.
Exactly. And what evidence is there? What evidence is there that you can't? What evidence is there that you can't? But who says you can't? Who are they? Why do they make them such an expert on how you can and can't, and why you can and can't? Exactly. I love that. This is an amazing note to end off on that you ended with. Because what makes them an expert? And as I say, question everything. Question things you were told, the things you believe. Are they even your thoughts? Are they even your beliefs? Or were they handed down to you, or did you accept them, or make something mean something? This has been amazing. I think we should have you back on again and do a part 2, Chucky. This has been awesome. How can people reach you? How can they find more about you? I got your information down here, but tell us as well.
Well, I got a pretty unique name. So on all social media platforms, you put in that name, you're going to find me.
Cool.
Basicinstructions.com. The best social media platforms would be LinkedIn or Facebook. And of course, my cell phone's there at the bottom. So you feel free to text or just reach out whenever.
Very cool. Very cool. We got to do number 2. This is amazing. We could go for hours, but I appreciate your time today. Thanks for being with us and showing that people, success in life is simple, and business. If you just know the instructions, and when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Instead of seeing failure or why this won't work, you see opportunities and success and why it does work. And I'll leave you guys with a quote from Albert Einstein. And it says, in the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. Right?
Right. All right. Well, I appreciate you having me. I do got people waiting on me. So
All
it's a
good,
great
man.
note to end on. If you want to reach out, information is there. Find me on social media. Send me a text. Appreciate your time.
Amazing.
Appreciate
Amazing.
your time.
Amazing.
And I'll be with you for part 2 pretty soon.
Beautiful.